Right, hi guys, welcome to another episode of The Cruel Wall from the Canadian Grand Prix. Yes, interesting race in my opinion, a good race, some good strong midfield battles. So yeah, let's kick it off, shall we, with the race winner, Lewis Hamilton. Dominated qualifying quite substantially, dominated the race quite substantially really. He definitely benefited from Verstappen nipping past Bottas and Vettel off the start. So that was really interesting to see. Verstappen having that good a start, that is, and obviously then it just meant that Hamilton broke away and was untouched at every lap. It was a pretty straightforward race for Hamilton, really. Broke the lap record in qualifying, as well as set fastest lap in the race. He just dominated the weekend. I've got nothing else to say on it, really. There's nothing else to say when you have a weekend that dominant. So yeah, quickly to the scores for Hamilton. It can be nothing else other than 12 points. I'm going to give him 12 points for that because he did just dominate the weekend and you can't fault it. A faultless drive in every aspect of every session. I don't like the bloke, but when you do well, I've got to admit it, I'm afraid. As much as it pains me to do it, 12 points for Hamilton. Next up was, of course, the amazing Valtteri Bottas. The first 1-2 for Mercedes of the year. Took them 7 races before they finally got to that. But yeah, Bottas P2. Again, a strong drive by Bottas. Lost out to Verstappen off the start. Benefited, obviously, because Vettel could never really attack after the front wing damage that he got off the line. And then, obviously, Vettel's eventual strategy change. So again, it was just a solid drive from Bottas. Ricciardo was sort of on the back of him a little bit towards the middle section of the race, but was never going to overtake. So Bottas, a strong drive, first 1-2 for Mercedes all year. Yeah, 8 points. 8 points, I think. I think that's a decent effort, but outshone by your teammate. So, you know, you can't get a full 10 for that. Third place was Daniel Ricciardo. Solid drive from Ricciardo. Benefited from the Vettel losing a part of his front wing off the start, as well as his teammates' breakdown, because Verstappen was looking the quicker of the two drivers once again at Red Bull. But yeah, strong drive from Ricciardo. Finished P3, did well to hold off the fighting Force Indias and Vettel towards the end of the race. So it was a good race, a good result from Ricciardo. Again, an impressive effort, but was outshone by his teammate, and it wasn't his fault why he retired. So Daniel Ricciardo gets a solid 8 points as well. 8 points as well for Ricciardo. So, next up in P4 comes, of course, Sebastian Vettel. Now, Sebastian Vettel had a good start off the line, but got mugged by Verstappen round the outside, and Bottas was on his inside, and there was a little bit of contact, and a bit of his front wing fell off. And, yeah, it sort of hindered his race from there, but a good recovery to say he dropped right to the back of the grid. Fought his way back through again on a two-stop strategy. And yeah, it was a really good effort by Vettel to recover from what could have been a disaster in terms of a championship result. It was a shame not to see him on the podium. That would have been a real, you know, really topped it off if he could have got on the podium, but it wasn't to be. But yeah, Vettel did a solid job, outshone, you know, by Hamilton as everyone was. So I don't think Vettel would have ever had the legs on Hamilton to win the race outright anyway, regardless of the incident that happened at the start with him losing his wing. But yeah, we'll have to leave it at that for Vettel. It was a solid weekend from him, recovered well after the incident, but in the shadows of Hamilton all weekend, so he didn't ever won the race anyway, in my opinion. So for Vettel, I'm going to give him 7 points. 7 points for Vettel. I think that's fair. 5th place was Sergio Perez. Now, this is where we get to the rant. Sergio Perez, you cost Force India a podium this weekend, I'm afraid to say, because you didn't allow Ocon through. Ocon was much faster. Of course he would have gotten past Ricciardo, and I think he'd have got a far enough distance ahead of Ricciardo to avoid being caught and overtaken by Vettel. It's a team sport. This is what annoys me. Formula One drivers are like footballers now, as in they're out of controls, as in they're bigger than the team. And this is what aggravates me. And it's got beyond a joke. And this is another point of proving it. Sergio Perez, for some reason, thought that obviously if he'd have let his teammate through and his teammate was allowed to beat him, then clearly he was less of a man. But no, you've just made yourself look like a dick, Sergio Perez. You have made yourself look like a right twat, because you have cost a small team a big result, and I guarantee you have. Of course you were both in the points. Yeah, that's brilliant. Well, all well and good. But you could have been 3rd and 6th this weekend, or maybe even 3rd and 4th. You know, if you'd have allowed Ocon to have the chance at Vettel, maybe you could have slipped. The chance of Ricciardo, then maybe you could have had a slip past as well, and it could have meant that Vettel and Ricciardo were squabbling while you two went off into the distance and worked together as a team. But because you didn't, you cost Force India vital points and a potential podium for Ocon. So for that, you know, if there's one thing I hate more than whinging down a team radio every 5 seconds, it's disobeying team orders, especially in teams like Force India. So for that, Sergio Perez, I've quickly worked your tally out that you're on 54 points before this weekend. You've now lost them all. You are going minus 54 points because, quite frankly, it pissed me off. You play the team game, for fuck's sake. I don't give a shit about what your agenda is. I don't care. Your sponsors are going to look at you and go, what a twat for not letting Ocon through. They're not going to go, oh, well, he lost to Ocon if they'd have let him through. Bullshit. Utter bullshit. So, Perez, you've lost all your points, mate, because you've lost all my respect. P6 was Esteban Ocon. Never had the chance to overtake his teammate. He did try, but Ocon was playing cautiously as well. Of course he was. It's his teammate. He didn't want to risk a double retirement while they're running in the points and so high up as well. Strong race for Ocon. Qualified 9th, which was his best ever qualifying to date in Formula 1. And also, you know, P6, another solid points finish for him. Yeah. He's going to start outshadowing Perez soon, I can guarantee that. So a solid drive from Ocon. Ocon did everything he could to try and overtake Perez fairly, but in the end I think he just sort of went, okay, I'm just going to take the points now because I don't want to do anything silly, and I have to admire him for that. In terms of this inter-team battle that Force India had, do I blame the team for not being harsh enough on Perez over the radio? I don't know, because Force India want to do a professional job, and they don't want to be shouting and routing down the radio, telling their drivers that they must move out the way, because it doesn't look very good, and it isn't a nice image for Formula One or the team. And no matter what you'd have done, Perez was not going to give that position up to Ocon. So I don't blame Force India in any way, shape or form for the result that happened today. I don't blame Ocon. It is solely all down to Perez. Ocon, you had a stonking drive, mate. It's a shame I couldn't see you battle for that podium place. And it's a shame that, you know, you could have been denied one this weekend. I'm almost certain of it. So Perez fucked you up. Ocon, 10 points, mate. You're going to get 10 points. 8 points for your actual race result, and then 2 points for sympathy because you were denied a podium. Next up after that was P7 Kimi Raikkonen. Yeah, off the pace in comparison with Vettel all weekend anyway, and then had some brake problems at the end, braking issues, and sort of set in stone really. He was on target to catch up to the Force Indias and Ricciardo along with Vettel, but that's when the problems set in. So where he could have finished, he could have potentially finished 4th or 5th, but with the issue down in 7th. A bit of a poor showing from Raikkonen anyway. He was lucky to not bin it in the wall in the early laps when he went wide and nearly lost it. And was just overshadowed again by his teammate making such a good recovery and him struggling again. So, Kimi Raikkonen, you had a solid race. I am aware you had an issue with your car and it was legit this time, not just him whinging because he couldn't get to fucking pace. But, yeah, Kimi Raikkonen, 6 points I think for you, mate. 6 points for Raikkonen. Next up comes Nico Hülkenberg. Solid weekend. Solid. it's safe to say. Again, points for Renault once again. Some other driver that races for a Renault still not managed to score any points yet, but we'll get to him in a second. But yeah, another solid weekend from Hulkenberg. Qualified P10, so in the top 10 again, and finished P8. 4 more points on the board. Excellent stuff. Again, solid drive, didn't do anything silly. Got involved in some nice tussles, some nice battles, especially with Magnussen and Stroll. So yeah, good race from Hulkenberg, and I'm going to score him 7 points. 7 points for Nico Hulkenberg there. I think he did really well. P9 now. Just going to have to save it a second. There we go. He's got the party poppers. P9 was Lance Stroll. Yes, you heard me right. Lance Stroll scores points in Formula 1. Whoa! Amazing. Amazing. P9, 2 points. A future world champion now. It's set in stone because he's scored points in a car that should score points. Amazing. Now, what was I going to score Lance Stroll for this weekend? Well, to be fair to him, he drove really well. He battled well, he battled fair, and he battled hard. I've got no problems with that at all. He's basically starting, well, I hope it's the start of him proving me wrong, because I don't want to see rejects in Formula 1. This is a weekend where he's proved himself. This is what he can do. So he needs to do this from now on and do it more consistently. What I was going to score him was I was going to take his 11 million off him that I'd give him at Monaco, because I thought it might have been a bit harsh. But what I'm actually going to do instead, because someone knows who they are, told me that I can't score Lance Stroll minus points on my cruel wall now because he scored points in Formula 1. Well, I'm afraid to say that unfortunately it's my cruel wall and I do my scoring. So for Lance Stroll, I would have given you plus 11 million, but instead I'm going to give you minus 11 million. It can have another minus 11 million. Lance Stroll, you did really well, mate. It's not your fault. Unfortunately, someone is trying to persuade me to score points for you, and it doesn't work. So a warning for anyone who wants me to try and score people points, I don't do it. That's the end of that. So next up is Romain Grosjean collected the final point for Haas. Fairly erratic race by both Haas drivers, it must be said. Grosjean less erratic. But yeah, he didn't do too badly. Lucky to pick up the final point due to someone's retirement. We'll get there in a second. But yeah, Haas weren't there at all this weekend, were they, unfortunately? They weren't there at all. Lucky to get a point. So yeah, less than average performance. It was fair. I'm going to score it average, actually. Average for Grosjean, 5 points. P11, here we go. Jolyon Palmer. Not scoring any points just yet, are we, pal? And you're not scoring any more points on my crawl wall because I'm bored of scoring your points. So I'm just going to write flap on there. There we go. So it's minus twat flap now. Jolyon Palmer, minus flap. There we go. Lovely stuff. I'm not even bothering going into his race or anything because it's just crap. Kevin Magnussen P12 now had an eventful race, more so than others because he was weaving quite a lot under braking, defending his lines and positions, and quite frankly how he got away with not getting any penalties or warnings I have no idea. Genuinely do not have any idea. So Kevin Magnussen, he didn't score any points. The Haas was off pace anyway, like I said earlier. An erratic drive from him at best. Moving in the braking zones. I don't approve of it at all. And Magnussen, yeah. Oh, it's going to have to be 0. Oh, sorry, mate. Can't score you anything else. I do like you. I always said this as well. I like Magnussen, but when you drive like an idiot, you get tread like an idiot on my cruel wall. Next up comes Marcus Ericsson. Actually finished 13th. I didn't even take any notice of the Saubers, to be perfectly honest with you. The footage never showed them. Well off the pace in comparison with any other teams. Were the full back marker this weekend, sadly for them. Is that their fault? No, of course it isn't. It is the car's fault, but I would like to see more out of this Sauber now. They are still bringing updates to the car, so it's interesting to see that it's not really happening at the minute. They're not really delivering on the updates that are coming. So, unfortunately for Marcus Ericsson, I didn't see much of the race. I'm just going to score you 2 points, Ericsson, based on you beat your teammate, but that's it. P14 was Stoffel Van Dorn in the shadows of his teammate again. He did battle with his teammate, and he had a couple of battles as well himself with Stroll and Magnussen, and who else was he battling with? I think Kvyat as well at some point when Kvyat had a penalty or two. We'll get there in a second with him. But yeah, in the shadows of Alonso again for another weekend. And yeah, Van Dorn, book your ideas up, pal. I'm going to score you 2 as well, just because you finished. You're in a Haas, you're in a McLaren, you finished, you want to be thankful. Next up, Pascal Wehrlein. Last of the finishers. Pascal Wehrlein, well in the shadows again, like the other Sauber was. It was an unfortunate race weekend for them, for Sauber. One to forget, just like it was in Monaco. But at least they did get both cars home to the finish. Pascal Wehrlein did crash at the end of qualifying as well, which is unfortunate. Put more damage and more repair bills onto that Sauber team, which they don't need at the moment. So Magnussen for that, Wehrlein for that, I'm going to score you 0. Can't score you any points for that, mate. I'm sorry. Then we come to the first of the retirements, or last of the retirements, however you like to look at it. And that was Fernando Alonso, running P10 in that McLaren Honda after having a feisty race, battling once again throughout the race with everyone and everything he could, just to try and, show that McLaren Honda can be respectable. And to break down 2 laps before the end whilst running in 10th is just cruel once again. Did a brilliant thing by running into the crowd and chucking his gloves in there and whatever else he could take off himself. And, a good effort by Alonso. And again, not his fault. He had all those problems in practice as well. It's just really, really disappointing to see Fernando Alonso so far down the field, and then when he does well, and he has been proving himself all season, he can never end the result with points or near the points. He can't even finish a race hardly, for fuck's sake. Such a shame to see. But Alonso, that's not your fault, mate. You did an amazing job in IndyCar as well, but I can't score it on that. But yeah, Alonso, I'm going to give you 10 points. 10 points for Alonso because I genuinely just feel sorry for him now. Yeah, there's nothing else I can say, really. Nothing else I can say other than, Alonso, I hope you get some good luck soon, mate. I really do. Then we come to the next to the retirements, which is the first of the Toro Rossos, which was Daniel Kvyat. Now, Daniel Kvyat had a drive-through penalty for not lining up back or re-overtaking the cars correctly after he stalled at the line, or something happened off the line on warm-up on the formation lap. And he had a drive-through penalty for it. But then FIA realised that the drive-through penalty was incorrect. So you think, all right, okay, well, he's suffered enough, hasn't he? No, he hasn't. No, he has to have a 10-second penalty then added onto a pit stop because the drive-through penalty was incorrect. Now, how does that work? It isn't as if a drive-through penalty is less than 10 seconds. It's considerably more than 10 seconds. That probably cost him between 15 to 20 seconds just to drive through the pit lane. And then you then add him another 10 seconds on for the same penalty because you're penalising a penalty that you got wrong. That annoyed me. That frustrated me. How can you penalise a driver for already penalising him because you got the penalty wrong? Horseshit, in my opinion, and Kvyat didn't deserve that. So, yeah, and he eventually retired anyway with some sort of issue. Can't remember what. But yeah, Daniel Kvyat's race was set in stone then, wasn't it, really? Unfortunate, because he was battling with the points between 8th and 10th, I think, or 8th and 12th. It was quite a big gaggle that he was racing with, and he was at the front of that queue before his drive-through. After his drive-through, it was at the back of that queue, and then his 10-second stop-go penalty, which never became anything other than a long wait in the pits because they had problems with their tyres and whatever else they had issues with. A weekend to forget for Kvyat, but in no way his fault, really. So I'm just going to score him a middle-of-the-road 5 because we couldn't really see what he was capable of because the FIA were just pissing all over him. So next up comes Max Verstappen, another driver that was so unfortunate. Such a shame. An amazing getaway to get up to P2 and did an amazing job to stay there until his car broke down once again on the 7th lap, I believe, so didn't get very far into the race, but he made an impact on it. He'd have been able to hold off Bottas no problem, I personally believe, because he was holding him off, you know, prior to that issue. And yeah, he was clearly not a match for Hamilton, but I've said that before. No one was a match for Hamilton this weekend, but I reckon Max Verstappen had certainly been P3 where Ricciardo was, if not P2. But of course, he retired. We could never see what his full capabilities were, so another middle-of-the-road 5, because you didn't really deserve what happened to you, unfortunately. Then we come on to Carlos Sainz. Now, Carlos Sainz involved in a... is it 1, 2, 3? Third corner he was involved in. Third corner incident with Massa, which was led on by contact with Grosjean. Now, Sainz has admitted that it was his fault. He says that Grosjean was in his blind spot and never saw him, hence why he went over and then went over again. Just couldn't see him and was unsighted. Unfortunately, that led to Sainz's retirement as well as Felipe Massa, a complete innocent victim in it all. And yeah, an unfortunate race weekend for Sainz. A lot of damage for the Toro Rosso car and the Toro Rosso team. He held his hands up, which is, you know, a true sportsman. Always admit to your mistakes. But Carlos Sainz, for that performance, it was piss poor, really. You know, okay, he was in your blind spot, but it's the start of a Grand Prix, mate. Be a bit more vigilant. So I'm going to score him -5, but that's only because he took out an innocent party. I know he admitted it was his fault, but he took out Massa, who was minding his own business and getting on with his own race. And that was just a shame, really. It had consequences for other drivers as well. So, let's have a look. And I believe it's just one more left, which is, of course, Felipe Massa. It is indeed. Now, Felipe Massa, like I said, couldn't really prove what he was capable of. Qualified P6, I believe, which was a stunning effort for that team, for that car. And yeah, just couldn't show what he was capable of. Did have a fairly poor getaway, was hung out to dry on the outside of turn 2, which made him involved in the incident at turn 3, but in no way was that his fault. But yeah, it's just going to have to be a middle-of-the-road 5 for Mr. Felipe Massa, because, again, we couldn't see what he was capable of. Unfortunate end to his race. And, of course, Giovinazzi didn't race, so that's a minus. Nothing there for him. Well, I hope you enjoyed it, and let me know your thoughts and feedback on this episode. If you did enjoy it, then let me know. As always, it's greatly appreciated for the support with the Cruel Wall series, and I look forward to seeing you all again soon. Thank you, much love. Ta-ra!